What's up, everyone? Tyler DeLuca back here, and the WNBA is back in full swing, which means it's back with my takeaways from this past week in the WNBA. And today we're going to be doing something just a little bit different. I want to do a check-in with some of the award conversations, as you know, obviously we're over halfway through this season now, and so I've been seeing some discourse online, as there always is. But I want to focus in on a couple of these awards here, and I want to start off with MVP. And the reason I want to start off with this, because it is a relatively foregone conclusion at this point that A'ja Wilson is going to be the MVP of the league, and absolutely deservedly so. She's been the best player in the world. She has been the best player in the world this season. On a day-to-day basis, she's the best player in the world. A average game, a bad game for her is a great game for others. But there's an aspect to this that has been interesting to me, and that is the conversation around her being a unanimous MVP. And for me, when I'm thinking about awards, usually, and especially MVP, because MVP is the one that I hold to the highest standard, I have three kind of boxes that I'm checking off. It's stats, it's standings, it's story. And it's no question at all that A'ja Wilson's got the stats. And even the story. Like, I think that at times that there have been struggles with telling A'ja Wilson's story. I don't think there's any secrets being held that there is discrepancies in WNBA media coverage, especially towards black women in the WNBA. But I think there's a story there about her taking officially taking the torch as the best in the world, even though I think that she has been there for certainly this season and likely last. And obviously you had the fourth place vote from last season as well. But when it comes to being unanimous MVP, every box has to be checked off very clearly to me. And the one aspect that is a little iffy right now is the standings. They've been teetering back and forth between that 4th and 5th place at times throughout this season. And when you look at the other two candidates for MVP in my eyes, it's Napheesa Collier, number 2, and Sabrina Ionescu, number 3. Both these players are on top 3 teams. Napheesa, I would give her the edge over Sabrina, because I think she has a claim for Defensive Player of the Year. I think that the Minnesota Lynx were a team that, and myself included in this, were underrated coming into this season, that Napheesa Collier has helped take them to that next level, and she has taken herself to that next level. And the fact that A'ja Wilson and the Aces are presumably going to be fighting for home court, it's something that where, not that, like I said, if I was a voter, A'ja Wilson is getting my vote. There's no, like, that is happening. But there's a very high standard to being a unanimous MVP. And it took, not obviously it's not 1 for 1 by any means comparing the NBA and WNBA, but it took Steph Curry to have an insane season to be unanimous. So I'm just saying, I bring it up to say this: if A'ja Wilson is not a unanimous MVP, I don't see it as some incredible slight, because there are minimal, but there are holes to poke within the case. For me, a unanimous MVP, it has to be checked across the board. Yes, stats, standings, and story. And right now, the standings can get a little shaky. So, I wanted to bring that up because I think that people are seeing if it's not a unanimous as a complete disrespect to A'ja in the season that she's having. And if she is unanimous, I think that's also cool, great. Like I said, if she has my vote, but I just don't think it is going to be an incredible disservice if she is not unanimous when the time comes. So, next award, I want to bring this up as well. Because on top of seeing Sabrina's name starting to come up in MVP talk, I've been seeing her come up in Most Improved Player talk. And this is an interesting one to me, and this might just be personal preference, because frankly, Most Improved Player is something across the board, men's and women's hoops, that hasn't been well defined. And so I think because of that, we all have different definitions of what being the most improved player is. For some, it is just being the most improved player. And certainly Sabrina has improved and has a case for having one of the larger jumps in the WNBA this season. I think that she is finally reaching the performance level and the consistency level that the hype and coverage has kind of been for her, and it's been great. It's been very fun to watch, seeing her attack the rim the way she does. It's been fantastic. But for me personally, when I'm thinking of most improved player, and my definition of most improved player, which, like I said, is it's going to be different for everybody, and I think that's part of the problem with the award, frankly. And might be a case for changing it or creating another award. But for me, it's about who has broken out. Who is someone that has completely changed like the trajectory of their career. And to me, frankly, that's not Sabrina. That she does not fit my definition for the award. And like, for example, you look at last season in the W. It was Satu, Sabali, and Jordan Canada who go down to the wire in the most improved player race. And Satu ends up winning it. And for me, Satu has already been an all-star before that and everything. And not that she didn't improve and have an incredible season, but she didn't fit the definition for me. Whereas Jordan Canada was on a training camp contract and became a bona fide starter in this league and a hot commodity in this offseason before this season going to Atlanta. A piece that felt like could change the trajectory of Atlanta's season. Going from a training camp contract to that is an incredible jump. And that, to me, is what the essence of most improved player is. Someone like a Dejanay Carrington this year, who went from relative role player, who like we felt could be taking those next steps and develop, to now a bona fide starter in kind of that same vein as Jordan Canada. As someone that teams are going to be looking at as a potential piece down the road that can be added to a championship core and elevate a team to that next level. For me, that is the essence of most improved player. Not a top pick. Like I said, Satu Sabali, a top pick. Number 2 pick. Sabrina was number 1 in that same draft. For me, I completely understand that most improved player is not defined well. And because of that, there is so much room for interpretation and how that can be opened up. But for me, that is not my definition. So for me, I am not on board with the Sabrina for most improved player case. But I understand completely where it comes from, because she certainly has improved and certainly has upped her game a ton this season. So I understand the case, not the case I'm going to be making. That's just not for me. Last but not least, we got to talk about Rookie of the Year if we're talking about awards. And frankly, I do think that this is probably the most separation that we have seen so far. In this case, I just think that Caitlin has taken a few extra steps, and a lot of that has to do also with, I think, just the feeling of the fact that the Fever are winning games now, and that she has a lot to do with those wins on top of several other players. I just think the team looks more cohesive than ever now, and Caitlin is playing a big part in that. Last, obviously you have the Olympic break, but the last like 3 weeks of actual games or so have been phenomenal. And that's not to say that Angel hasn't as well. Obviously, she damn near put up a 20-20 game. I have just... It feels like Caitlin has taken just an extra like half step in her game and has gotten more comfortable, and thus you have seen the impact on winning that has had. And for me, and like I said earlier with the stats standing stories, for me that is really as you get lower down the pedigree of awards, that I get a little bit more lenient with that, especially with like Rookie of the Year, because standings to me, for Rookie of the Year don't really matter, because you're supposed to be kind of going to bad teams. So, but I also do think that turning around the favor of a team, that more so provides to the story aspect of this. And Caitlin has taken a Fever team that hasn't been to the playoffs in years, and has now turned them into a team that's safely in the playoffs, and is certainly ramping up for a run to continue to elevate their seeding in the playoffs. So for me right now, as recording this, Caitlin has increased the size of the gap just a little bit. And obviously we still have plenty of time to play. Well, not plenty of time, but there's certainly games left to play, and this opinion could absolutely change, and I'm keeping an open mind on it. But I do think there is something to be said about the increase in level of play from Caitlin Clark and how that correlates to the wins that the Fever are seeing this season, and especially in these past couple of weeks where she has felt like really leveled up, and just the vibes around the team seem different. The past give or take a month for the Fever has been a completely different type of team. It feels like, and Chicago is going in the other direction. And I don't think that's any fault to Angel by any means, but when it comes to momentum, when it comes to story, and when it comes to people talking about earlier in the season that the fact that this guy were higher in the standings at the time, and we're using that as a point in the Rookie of the Year race, I'll be interested to see how, now that that gap is widening in the win-loss column, how is that going to impact the voting for Rookie of the Year? So right now, I'm getting the sense that Caitlyn is widening that gap, and it feels like what I'm seeing. So it's gonna be something interesting to monitor. But I'm ready to see how all these awards end up playing out, and obviously, we still got games to play. We got regular season games to play. We got playoff games to play. So there's gonna be tons of exciting dialogue to have, and to see where everything is at. I'll be here to do it. I'm excited to do it, and I'll see you next time.